Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Lawrence. If you're like me, you love this time of year. I mean, who doesn't love this time of year? The temperatures are getting cooler. We have sports, football, college football, high school football. Thanksgiving's around the corner. I love this time of year, but for so many Americans, they don't. They despise this time of year. They cringe when they think of the family get-togethers over the holidays. Why is that? There is a phenomenon called seasonal affective disorder. It affects about 5% of the U.S. population. So just to put that in perspective, there's 13 million people avoid this time of year. Now, to put that in comparison, depression affects 8.5% of the Americans, right? That's 21 million people. So we have 13 million people really avoiding the holidays, really pulling back when this is probably one of the most celebrated times of the year. Your hard work is paying off this harvest season. So look, joining me today, I have a dear friend of mine, Marliska Narcisse. She's the clinical director of Post Trauma Institute. They provide psychiatric services across Louisiana. And I want to welcome her to the show. So Marliska, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great.
You're doing great. So first of all, before we get started, tell me, a little bit about your clinical experience.
So I am a licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
I've been practicing for over 13 years.
Okay. So you know what you're doing.
I would think so. I hope so. I've seen very many different diagnoses over the year. Of course, bipolar depression, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, a lot of anxiety disorders, depression, obviously, and of course, seasonal affective disorders.
So tell me about what is it exactly, in your own words, what is it exactly?
So in my own words, seasonal affective disorder is a disorder in the DSM-5 that pretty much affects people during the time of year, fall, winter time, when it's getting darker outside, when, it's getting colder outside. A lot of people tend to stay inside, less interaction, less going outside.
So they're isolating themselves.
Right. More people are isolating. Not a lot of sunlight. Of course, in Louisiana, when it gets wintertime, by 5:15, it's dark outside. So for a lot of people, that signals staying inside. And so then you see an increase of depressive symptoms around that time.
So what does that look like? So if somebody's affected by seasonal affective disorder, what does that look like?
So for the most part, like we mentioned, it's a lot of isolation.
Okay.
It's dreading the holiday time. I hear this every single year since I've been practicing in outpatient care. I'm not looking forward to Thanksgiving. And, for the most part, when you think of that, you would think some of these clients wouldn't have big families. But no, they have big families. They have great friendships. But yet they are not wanting to engage because of the stress that comes with the holidays, and which, of course, is sometimes triggered by seasonal affective disorder.
Political discussions and all that.
Right, and other things that come along. And, of course, pressures of the holidays, which we can talk about later.
Okay. So people are dreading the interaction with their loved ones, and that's not ideal. Who is primarily affected by seasonal affective disorder?
Honestly, it ranges from both adults and children.
Really?
My population that I mostly see is adolescents and adults, so I'll speak to that population.
Okay.
And I often have adult clients recently, even in the last couple of weeks, say, hey, I just noticed, since the time is changing, I'm getting a little sad. I'm wondering what this is. And I'm like, this could be seasonal affective disorder. And so then we're discussing, what is it? What does it look like? And of course, most importantly, how do you combat that?
Okay. So you said it affects people equally, children and adults. So what about the genders? Are there, does it affect women more than men, or is it about the same?
I would think it's about the same. I don't want to speak to any gender specifically. I majority see a lot of female clients. It's just my clientele. So I can only speak to those and the adolescents that I see. Okay.
All right. So we have I'm in your chair, and I'm noticing that I'm getting, a little anxious around the holidays coming up, and I should be happy, right? What would you tell me to do? What would you tell me, give me an idea of what would help me get through this time.
So the biggest thing, the number one thing I would say, Lawrence, be mindful of isolating.
Okay.
So if you have good friends, good family, you get out, you go to those football games, right? Or you start planning for your holiday trips,
Right.
or you start discussing with your kids in August what they want for Christmas. You know, while it may sound, like, oh, that's too far away. Those are the things that kind of keep us excited about life when you're kind of planning things and you're looking forward to things.
Looking forward.
Right. And so, I've told moms who've had little ones, hey, every year I try to take my kids to a pumpkin patch. And while it's not exciting for the parents, but it's something to look forward to, in the August time when the season is kind of changing. Another big thing, which I know is cliche to say, but exercise. Exercise is going to produce those endorphins in the brain that are going to give us the happy chemicals in the brain.
Right.
And getting outside, especially if the sun is going down sooner, we need to take advantage of the sunlight when you can. And especially if it's nice, crisp air on your lunch break, go sit outside and eat your sandwich. Don't stay in your office. Don't isolate in your house. If you go and have your morning coffee on your porch, do those things, and it helps to improve seasonal affective disorder.
So I'm gonna circle back to one thing that you said. You said isolation, and that's so in my research and in the things that I'm very passionate about. Isolation tends to come up. It's one of the main factors and contributing factors to anxiety, right? But if you take what the Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General has been campaigning on over the last 24 months, 2 years, he's been talking about isolation, and this is an interesting statistic. Isolation has the same negative effect on the body as does smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And so let that sink in. 15 cigarettes a day. So what that means in the span of someone's life is, they may shorten their lifespan. It has the same effect on the heart. So we see the physical effects of isolation mirror, people that make bad health choices or that are in bad health. So when you see isolation, and particularly with your younger population, what are some of the things that you can tell mom? So if mom's seeing her child isolate themselves, what are some of the things that you can tell mom that equips her with the tools that she may need to stop that? Because again, what we're trying to do is just give people the opportunity to live life in the most meaningful way. So what would you tell mom if she's seeing this at home?
So first thing I would tell mom is, it's important to do check-ins with your kids.
What does that mean?
A check-in is basically, especially if you have teenagers, right? So teenagers, not all, but, have been known to, they get home from school, they go in their room, they slam the door. They're
on their phone.
On the phone, right. Or on the video game.
Right.
And so that increases isolation, right? Or it starts the innocent pattern of isolation, but then it progressively gets worse. And so the first thing I would do is say, hey, are you doing daily or weekly check-ins with your kids? Are you doing fun activities? I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Okay.
And we try to make a habit, my husband and I, to, do family things. So we'll take them bowling. We'll take them to the movies. And while it sounds easy, it sounds like, yeah, everybody, but you'd be surprised.
But it's still that connection.
Right. And it's important to have the connection because you'd be surprised with parents and busy lives, how we forget sometimes to check in on the kids. You hear about the tablet kids who are addicted to the tablets.
Bluey is raising my kid.
Right. Bluey is raising my kid.
Bluey is an amazing show, by the way.
Yes, I love Bluey. But yes, so you hear about these things, and these are real things. And I think it's not to say you're a bad parent, because I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. It's just, okay, we have to pause in the chaos of our day-to-day life and being in traffic. And we have to say, am I checking in with my teen? Am I checking in with my 10-year-old? Another thing would be extracurricular activities, and it doesn't have to be sports. It doesn't have to be cheer, There's wonderful things in terms of you can take your kids to astronomy classes, and
That is neat.
science things,
Stimulating
them and getting them engaged. Play dates. I don't see as many children playing outside anymore.
That is true. I something. My children are. I only have one that's still in high school, but one of the things that I did growing up was, with my kids growing up, was I had daddy-daughter dates, and they had different days, and no phones, no, it was just us, and that's an opportunity to go and impart, your worldview, or just check in on their worldview and see what's going on. So I can attest to that. My oldest daughter, she joined the Air Force, and she's working at the NSA up north. And one of the things she told me, she said, she called me one day, this proud papa moment here. She said, "Dad, thank you." I said, "For what?" She said, "Because you prepared me." And so she attributed those times. So this is a great way to check in, would be a great way to establish some foundational truths with your children. So now, let's you mentioned something, it's easy to get disconnected with our busy lives, right? We work, we go to the gym, we have our social side. What about your spouse? If I see my spouse isolated, she's sitting on, she's playing Candy Crush, and she's just over there in no man's land. What are some tools and tips that you've seen to be effective in reeling an adult back in? It's easy with your children because they don't really have a say so.
Right. Get in the car.
But get in the car. We're going to have fun, mandatory fun.
Right.
But what do you do with your spouse?
So similar things, you're doing check-ins, because even though people are married and sleep in the same bed and live in the same house, once again, with the chaos of life, there tends to sometimes be a disconnect.
Yeah.
And so are we checking in? And I know date night sounds cliche, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do regular date nights. Do we do movie nights?
Right.
We will, when the kids go to bed, my husband and I are like, okay, let's pick a Netflix show. Usually I fall asleep within 20 minutes, but there was effort there, right?
I showed up.
Right, I showed up. In terms of cooking for one another, just things to keep you and your spouse engaged and talking is very important. And of course, there needs to be a safe space for your spouse to say, hey, something is going on with me. And so with mental health as a whole, whether you're a parent, a spouse, a child, you have to be very delicate with how you talk about mental health.
Right.
You can't address someone and try to force them to say, I'm feeling depressed today, because what do most people do? They shut down. It's embarrassing.
It's a defense mechanism.
Right. So you be gentle with how you address those things. Simple questions are like, hey, babe, I noticed, you're not as smiling and talking. Is everything okay?
Right.
Because I'm here for you. And then you take a step back, because you cannot be intrusive and force someone to talk to you. I've learned that throughout my 13 years of being a therapist. A lot of people have to warm up to you in order to talk about something so vulnerable. And so really, whether it's your child, your spouse, your neighbor, you do those check-ins, you come from an authentic place, you ask questions, and you communicate, and you continue to check in.
Correct. So you don't it's not a one-hitter quitter.
No, it is definitely not a one and done.
You said date night, and it reminds me of a time my wife and I, we had gone out to this really nice restaurant. And, I got my hair cut, I was in the gym, and she got her hair laid. And for those of you who don't know, hair laid means her hair was done nicely. So, but we were having a date night, and we're talking and having a good time. And we tend to, if we're sitting with other people, like at a bar or something, we'll end up talking to everybody at the bar. But this particular time, we were sitting at a table, right? And this couple came in shortly after we came in, and I'm over here ear hustling and eye hustling. I'm looking at these folks. I'm like, babe, you see this? And she's like, what? I said, they've been looking at their phone the entire time. Mm-hmm. The only time this couple broke eye contact with their phone was when the waitress came up. Mm. And that's happened in so many relationships, in so many environments. People are tethered to their phones, social media. They're disconnected. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to why that there may be such a disconnect today with people, because that drives isolation?
Yes. So definitely. So Similar with chocolate and food and all the other things that we can be gluttonous about.
Right.
Our phones, we
Yeah.
are very addicted to our phones. It sparks a dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
If you're scrolling on your Instagram and you see 200 people liked your picture,
I
that's
wanna
the
post more
dopamine.
pictures.
Right. I want to post more pictures. You're scrolling through Facebook and you're seeing people take wonderful, lavish vacations. It's a jealousy could spark, but then I'm addicted to seeing more. Right. And so it's sadly, taking breaks from phones. Now, of course, all of us, we're addicted to our phone. I will say, as a mom, like, I can't get rid of my phone. What if something happens to my kids?
I would rather you steal my wallet
than steal my phone. Exactly. 100%. And so that is, sadly, I know there's all type of innovative things that people can do. You can put timers on your phone. It can tell you how much screen time you've had. Those things are important. And just also setting aside time with your family is very important. Because I always go back to, I'm that kid that's like in between when cell phones were this big to there were no cell phones. So I remember, times where, my mom would call. I would use the school phone to call my mom if I felt bad. Not I have to have a cell phone in the 5th grade to call my mom.
Right.
Yeah.
So putting the phones down is a huge part. I know something that we try to do at the family. My 2 daughters that are at home, they're in college, and my son, he's in 9th grade, and he's, he knows everything, of course. But what we try to do at least once a week is have a meal together. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is a rule in the household is no phones at the table. Yep. Right. We have to be mindful of it when we go out to eat to not put the phones. But, you folks want to take the pictures, and you got to let folks get through that stuff and then put it down. Let's talk. And when we do talk, oh man, the jokes. So my family, we joke a lot, and the jokes start rolling, and you're laughing, and that's a great way to overcome the things that happen in our respective days, and we can talk in a safe space over a great meal about what life looks like, and you're getting, it's almost like a group therapy where you're getting perspectives from other people that care about you, and so. That's one of the things I always encourage people to do is just, hey man, put that phone down.
Right.
Let's make eye contact. Let's smile. Let's laugh. Let me see your teeth.
Right.
And so let me ask you this. If someone was struggling, and this is directly to the individual that doesn't want to go to the family cookout, or they don't want to come home for Thanksgiving, what would you say to encourage them to take the initial step to get help? What does that help look like?
So, of course, once again, delicate situation, but I'll just use for reference, if it was one of my clients, right? And my client obviously is accepting help. They're, seeking out therapy, and they were saying, Marliska, Thanksgiving coming up, and I think I'm gonna stay home. I don't want to deal with my loud auntie. I don't want to cook. They're gonna ask me to cook 10 pies. I don't want to have to, deal with my cousins. I would say, okay, let's reframe this. Let's look at this. Let's break this down. So what are your fears? Because I'm hearing some fear there, right?
Yep.
And so, of course,
powerful motivator.
Yeah. If there's fear there, or if there's a concern of, I'm avoiding because I am dealing with seasonal affective disorder, or I am dealing with anxiety or some other form of depression, then we can speak to that and we can say, okay, let's have a safeguard in place. I love compromising and saying, okay, if your auntie's Thanksgiving meal starts at 3 and people don't leave till midnight, guess what? You can drop in at 3 and you can allow yourself to leave at 4:30. It's okay. You're not obligated to stay there all day. I know you may hear some flack for it. I know auntie may say, where you going? But don't feel pressured. It's okay to say no. It's okay to give yourself limits. But of course, the goal would be, once you got in a car and you drove and you went to your aunt's, you would stay there till midnight like everybody else, because that fear and that pressure of saying I have to be there all night, or I have to cook 10 pies, it goes away, and it gives that person a way to set their own boundary.
So you're giving them the permission to say no.
Exactly.
Okay. So Post-Trauma Institute has been affecting lives in the state of Louisiana since 2012. How do people get in touch with the clinic?
So I am a Google person. So I would simply Google PTI in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and everything will pull up. You can go on the website. There are easy little links that are like, click here, press here, and you can easily sign up. You can also contact the Post-Trauma Institute phone number, and our clinical team and our staff is wonderful, amazing. They get back to you promptly.
They are.
Regarding scheduling appointments.
Shout out to PTI
yes,
staff.
Shout out to PTI staff. Amazing. And yeah, we will do our best to get you seen as promptly as we can, because, you know, we understand the pressures of life and we want everybody to get help, especially when they are ready.
Awesome. So guys, listen, if you want to get in touch with the Post-Trauma Institute and people that care and can equip you with the tools for a meaningful life, like what Mariska's talked about here, go to www.mypsychnetwork.com. Again, that's www.mypsychnetwork.com. You'll learn what we stand for. You'll learn the resources that we have for your family. You'll be able to just really feel connected and get connected. And we ask that you do that now. So thank you. Thank you for coming out here.
Of course, anytime. This was fun. This was fun. This was fun. Yeah, I get to talk about what I love.
We have to get her back, guys, so she can drop gems on us.
No pressure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
And guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you again for spending some time with me, and we'll see you soon. Take care.